Hello, today we're going to give you a couple of little pointers on soldering iron care. First of all, when your iron is cold, you should every now and then remove the nut that holds on the onto the soldering tip, because it'll prevent it from seizing right to the soldering iron. Now this happens to be a Hakko soldering iron and the nut's further back, but the Weller's is not far from the head of the soldering iron, so it's more important to make sure you remove that nut and keep it free when it's cold. Also, you want to check your cord and make sure there's no burn marks or divots in it, just to be on the safe side. Now, the other part that you want to take care of is your soldering iron tip. Sometimes, and this one's not too bad, it's not really dirty. By the time I heat it up, it'll probably come up nice and shiny. But when you're working along and soldering your lines, if the solder's not flowing properly, and if you know there's flux on it, look at your tip. It may seem to have some dirt in it, and you need to keep that clean as possible. One way you can do that as you're working is simply wiping it in a sponge, and it'll brighten it up and get the debris off. However, if that's not the trick, or you haven't used your soldering iron for a long time, then you may need to clean the tip. Now I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do that. Everybody in this studio seems to do it a different way. My favorite way, although probably the most toxic, so you want to stand downwind, hopefully I won't gag myself, is just a container of flux paste. This is, you buy it at any hardware store or any home building supply center. It's just paste flux. Okay, this one happens to be lead free, and all you have to do is dip your soldering iron tip in and wipe it off, and it'll come out nice and clean. So that's one method, and you can repeat that a few times if it's not working. The other one is, it's quite fuming. You want to do it in a well-ventilated room. All of these, please. This is a salmoniac, which is, I believe, a solid of ammonia. So again, please, no children around, and do it where there's a good breeze, and there happens to be one here today. So you can flux your tip. Use your liquid flux that you normally would use, and then you can rub it, and you're going to make smoke. And when you get it to a certain point where you think it's clean, you can re-tin it, and I don't have any solder, so give me a sec.
Take that part out.
Yeah. And then you can just re-tin it and wipe off the excess. And it should be nice and shiny and ready to go. The other product that's used for cleaning your soldering tip is actually a product put out by Hakko. They have this neat little container with a little Brillo type pad in it, and it's kind of a curly brass. And it's basically, you just have to hit the brass and poke your tip in it, and it should clean it off pretty good. As you know, typical of your sponge sort of thing. The one nice thing about this is that it doesn't cool down your soldering tip. Now it also has a little packet of a solder cleaner, which is a lot like paste flux, and it actually sticks to the top of the little dome. And again, you just run your tip on that, and then you can dip it in a few times, and you should be ready to go. So that's 3 different ways to clean your soldering tip: on the run, when it's not too bad, in the paste flux, downwind, as well as the salmoniac. And I guess this would be classified as kind of on the run, as well as kind of a combination of both without the water. So keep your sponge wet to touch, not sopping, and keep your soldering iron in good shape.